Hey, everybody. This last couple months has been very busy with interviews. We're excited about that. And I don't think in the last 2 months we've had anybody on that's been on before. It's all been first-time offenders. And I'm a real big fan of this first-time offender, Amanda Muse, who I've been following on Facebook for like a few years now. And if you're not familiar with Amanda, the text is in the post. Some of it's on the player. Amanda's worked on music scores for the likes of Fox, Sony, Warner Brothers. Her session percussionist credits include Netflix's Leo, Riot Games' League of Legends, and CineSamples Drums of War 3. And she was a snare drum player at Universal Studios theme park in her hometown of Orlando, Florida for 3 years, has performed in the Disney World and at Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and she won David Levine's 2018 Hit Like a Girl contest. Amanda, when are you going to get busy and do something? What are you doing?
I don't know, man. I'm just sitting around. I got all this time to kill.
And folks, I have a couple of videos that I'm going to play. And one of the things I love about your playing is, and I don't know a lot about your history other than what I just read, but what I love is how you've obviously incorporated your kind of drum corps chops with your drum set playing. Let's start there. Did you start in drum corps and learning like marching band style drumming, or did you start at a drum kit, or did you start with a saxophone or kazoo?
I started piano at like age 5 or 6 or something, but then when I hit middle school, I was a flute player. So I was a wind player, and then I got to high school and I was in love with the drum line. I was like, I want to do that. And I got these buckets and just like put them in my room, started playing on that. But yeah, eventually I made the drum line my 10th grade year, and then marching percussion was my main instrument. Like even more than drum set, I was really invested in snare drum. So I did that all throughout high school and college, and even after college, taught and did clinics and everything. So really heavily was brought up in the drumline world. Yeah.
Great. And when did you start playing drum set more, and how much of your drum corps style have you incorporated into that other than the
Yeah.
obvious like rudiments and stuff?
Yeah, drum set was more of like a hobby for me since high school. Eventually I got a real drum set, stopped playing on the pots and pans. But yeah, since I'd say high school, it was always kind of there for fun. And then I moved to Los Angeles in 2020. And so for the past like 4 years-ish is when I really started building my drum set chops. And I finally got like a real good drum set here
Yes.
in my
Nice pro
home
kit.
studio. Yes.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so I'd say about the last 4 years, since like 2020 is when I really started doing, session recordings and digging into drum set.
That's
Yeah.
great. I want to show everybody a video. This is a fun video because it's you playing along with yourself on both drum set and a marching snare. So let's show everybody this, then we'll talk about it. Nice. That was great. Do you do a lot of videos like that? I've seen you do so many things. It's almost hard to keep
Yeah,
track of.
I mean, if you go on my Instagram, I've been doing videos like that since like 2017.
Oh,
I got my
wow.
Instagram and just started posting these snare drum licks. I loved writing licks, and so I just started posting them, and people were interested and started gaining a bit of a following. But yeah, I love just for no reason, just because it's fun.
But that's I think why we learn to play music, right? It's all
Yeah.
about the fun first, and I think it should be about the fun last as well.
Hmm.
No matter what aspect of the music industry someone's in, and just like any business, there's going to be frustrations. There's going to be
Yeah.
things about, yeah, whether it's the other people you're dealing with, or whether it's the pay, or whether it's just so many different circumstances to bob and weave around. We should always remind ourselves, along with those frustrations, we started playing for fun. I think when the fun's
Yeah.
lost, that's when it's like, well, then why put up with the other stuff if you're not willing to do
Right.
that so you can have the fun, right?
Yeah. That's what it's all about. Can't lose that part of it, you
Yeah.
know.
Now I noticed in that video, it looks like you have a bass strung over behind you,
A bass drum.
a bass guitar, it looks
Oh,
like.
oh, my electric guitar. Yeah.
Is it the
I
electric guitar?
play guitar. Yeah, I do all these weird videos. So I think I had in the original video for that, I was doing it to a song, but I didn't include the song for copyright reasons here, but I was like I have a loop machine, so I like to loop some guitar stuff,
Cool.
and then I did the snare part and the drum set part. So yeah, I play a few instruments.
Yeah, I see the keyboard, and there's a
Keyboards, yeah.
keyboard. I'm going to show another video, might as well right now. This one's a little longer, folks, so more to enjoy. And it'll show up on the screen in front of us. So if you want, Amanda, you could just lean to what would be, I think you're right, or this way. Yeah, there you go. And then people will still see you rather than it covering us up.
Okay.
Check this out, and then we'll talk about this video. Very inspiring. Piece of music. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was a piece I was doing for a music licensing company who does a lot of sports entertainment ads. So they were wanting some like marching band, drumline esque music for an ad bit. And so that was a project I was doing for them. So I wrote the brass, I wrote all of it. And then I was like, yeah, I'm totally going to layer in some live snare. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
samples for live snare.
Right. Yeah.
My
Thank you.
neighbors totally hate me, but that's okay.
That's funny. It'd be funny if your neighbor was a flute player.
I know.
If so, you might be able to smooth things over a little bit.
Yeah.
So you wrote all of that. That's great. When I first saw that video, the question that came to my mind was, I could see that you're not reading charts. And it makes sense that you know the music because you wrote it. But typically, when you do work for other people where you're playing someone else's music, do you memorize it or do you sight read? What's your process like?
It depends on the timeline. Like when I was doing I played on the drumline on a drumline soundtrack for League of Legends, and they gave us the music like 2 or 3 days beforehand, and it was like 5 charts that were like 2-ish minutes long. So there wasn't much time to memorize it. But, get familiar with it
Yeah.
unless you're incredible at sight reading. But, always get familiar with the music if it's sent to you beforehand. Have a couple days to do that and then keep it there on the stand while you're in the session. But when I was doing Disney gigs and Universal gigs, all of that had to be memorized, obviously, because that was like entertainment shows. But when
Yeah.
you're recording, you can have it there if you need it.
Yeah. Are you good at memorizing? Do you have that kind of ear where that works well for you?
I think it was drilled into me during marching band how to memorize. I don't think I'm naturally can like memorize it after, just a couple playthroughs.
It's kind of
I
an
think
earned skill.
yeah, marching band, we learned how to chunk and repeat and repeat and repeat and break down measures and it just really taught me how to memorize stuff. So I
Plus,
credit
you got the
that.
choreography
Yeah, yeah.
on top of the music's not enough. Let's
I
dance and move
know.
around, right? That's
Yes.
interesting. I used to have, and I love this topic because I used to be able to sight read as well as I could sight read English. And now I've been so detached from having to read music that I don't. Like
Yeah.
it would take me forever to write something out that I could just sit down and play. And
Hmm.
it would take me a while to learn it by reading it than if I just played it 8 times and then went, okay, I got it. I just
Yeah.
am blessed with that kind of an ear. The funny thing is I'm playing a show in Las Vegas on June 23rd, which is this coming Sunday as we're broadcasting this.
Hmm.
And none of these guys have played together as a band. It's my wife's oldest son is one of the two lead singers, and it's a tribute to the hits of Genesis and the Police.
Mm.
Some of the Genesis stuff I've played and I know inside and out.
Yeah.
Some of the Genesis stuff I've never played because it's more the hits stuff, and I'm more into the prog stuff. But like I know it, I'm not worried about it.
Right.
The Police songs, I've played two of them. The rest of them I've never played. And for 2 weeks, I've been saying, I got to run through the show. I got to run through the show.
Yeah.
We're leaving in the morning. Today's the first day I started playing to some of the songs. And we have one rehearsal on
Yeah.
Saturday. But I'm not tripping on it because I've been able to rely on that ear because when I was 10, 11, 12, 14, I was playing long epics by Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Genesis, yes, and Rush. And I just had to learn I just learned by ear because
Yeah.
there wasn't printed music for those at the
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
So I like that to learn what other people's processes are and what learning curve maybe they went through, like you described, in developing a good ear, but also keeping up your sight reading charts. I think if you're a studio player, you really should know how to sight read.
Yeah.
You
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 have
never know
to.
when you show up for one thing, then they're going to put something else in front of you that you weren't even aware of. Hey, while we have extra time, let's record this. Wait, what?
Yes.
And if you can't read music, you're
No.
out, right?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. You got to have those sharp sight reading chops.
What kind of music do you enjoy listening to, and what kind of music do you enjoy playing if those are different?
Music I enjoy listening to. I love rock and pop. Like I grew up in like the early thousands listening to the punk pop and the pop rock. And I missed the good days of like really solid pop rock music. So if you went through my Spotify, you'd see all
What would some
those.
examples be?
I mean, I loved like Green Day, and I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I think like Backstreet Boys had some great hits.
Cool.
Britney Spears, the early days of pop. I
Yeah.
think the nostalgia is also attached to it. But I love some 80s. I also love some 80s like classic rock. I have
Cool.
playlists of that. But yeah, I love, anything using real instruments, guitars and, real drum sets. I love listening to. And that's the same stuff I love playing. I love playing rock and pop.
That's cool. A
Yeah.
lot of what
And
you said,
yeah.
and especially in that era, is when, excuse me, is when there was a boom of more and more electronic percussion.
Hmm.
Simmons drums in the late 70s into the early 80s. I still have my 1982 or 3 set of Simmons drums.
Hmm.
Um, but that boom happened. And what I'd love your take on this. I've always been baffled why some people who are very accepting, of course, and in love with electric guitar, electric bass, electric piano, just hate on electronic drums. Like,
Hmm.
why? I don't get that. I
Yeah.
understand that for a lot of people who do like it, even it has its place. It does for me. I mean, I played mostly acoustic drums, but I've always found that interesting. Why the electric drums don't get a pass the way
Yeah.
electric guitar and electric bass and everything
I
does. You have
know.
any thoughts on that? Since it's so prevalent in music,
I mean, I just like, I don't care even if it's an electric drum set as long as a real player is playing it.
rather
I
than
wish
program.
that, yeah, I mean, it just, there's just more feeling, and you can tell when a track was written by a producer who just copies and pastes, and there's
Yeah,
no creative fills. Every phrase is the
and it's too
same.
quantized.
Yeah, my sister asked me, how can you tell if it's like sample drums or a real player playing, regardless of the player was playing electronic drums or acoustic? How can you tell if there was a real player? And you could tell, if everything is the same, if there's
Yeah,
no dynamics, if there's no creative fills, if every note sounds the same. But
there's no
I
nuances of that human
yeah, and I
feel
feel
where it
like
breathes a little or
nowadays, yeah,
ghost note.
exactly. Nowadays we're lacking those little nuances. Everything has to be so perfect,
Yeah.
and it's like we're lacking that authenticity, I feel like,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
and I agree. It ends up sounding too manufactured, you know,
Yes, yes,
um,
exactly.
like it was poured into a mold, and like you said, the copy
Yeah.
and paste. Like, oh, you got it right for those 4 measures. We're going to use those for the whole song. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you play to a click track, or does it depend on the circumstances?
Yes. Well, do you mean if I'm recording a track or
Yeah,
doing like a session? Yeah, always, always
yeah.
play to a click track.
And was that? How, did you automatically lock in with that skill, or was that something you had to get used to?
I think marching band again totally taught me, you're marking time with your feet, and that drilled in just syncing up with a metronome. I never practiced without a metronome because they were like, just don't bother even practicing if you don't have a click going on. So, yeah, marching
That's
band
great.
made that drilled into me to align with the click.
That's awesome. Who were some of your influences on in drumming, of course?
I mean, I never actually marched drum corps, but I loved like Blue Knights were my like favorite drum corps, and there's always this like stylistic, just beautiful style that they had in their technique. Um, and the BIOS guys, the BYOS guys
Yeah,
who did all the videos on YouTube, I saw those videos and it inspired me to start creating my own licks, just drumming to music. So,
hmm,
yeah, kind of it was a influence of both drum corps and just that fun, like, just drumming out to whatever music you want.
favorite tracks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
entertainment drum line. So
yeah,
it's like
drum
kind of,
corps style to like pop music things or
yes.
hip hop and things like that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
kind of a fusion of the two.
Are you familiar with Drumcat from South Korea? That all female drum troupe.
I've probably seen
They're
videos. There's
extremely.
like four of them.
Yeah, typically, usually there's 4, sometimes a little more, and they're extremely flamboyant in their choreography and
I
playing on
think,
sometimes big steel drums, and someone
yeah.
else will have a snare, someone else will have quads, that kind of thing, and just crazy movements, but they're so good. They're really,
Yeah.
we've posted them over the years. If later when you have time, look up Drum Talk TV Drumcat on YouTube or
Okay.
Facebook. They should come up. It's really fun stuff to watch. And then, do you have any drum set player influences?
Um, I I mean, I grew up listening to the Beatles, so I'm a little partial to Ringo, but he's not exactly like pop rock
Right.
style, but I probably would have to say, grew up loving Ringo, so he's one of the top for me.
That's cool. Timekeeping machine. He's
Yeah.
a timekeeping machine who gets a lot of flack
I
because
know.
he's not Neil Peart or John Bonham or Nico McBrain or
Yeah.
name 10,000 other drummers. But first of all, the music those guys played didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
And those guys all had the same influences he did because there was only jazz before
Hmm.
him. There wasn't rock to really model,
Right.
off of. And like the whole playing for the song thing is to me a separate subject. I'll set that here for a moment. We'll get back to that. But he played what exactly worked for the
Yeah.
Beatles music, and
Hmm.
the air he gave things, and people like him, and I think Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, who's drumming really, if I could use the word, mellowed out from
Yeah.
like 19 after the Animals album, or actually even before then, um, and and it's like try to play to that, folks. The more
Yeah.
space there is in music, and the less fills, and the more just keeping time, the more room
Yeah.
there is for error, right?
Right.
And I find that interesting that people actually have the nerve to criticize someone who's been on more records and has more gold or platinum records than they'll ever have. I mean, I just don't
I
get it.
know.
I don't get it. The whole playing for the song thing,
Yeah.
it's easy to say, well, Ringo worked because he was playing for the song.
Hmm.
But Carl Palmer was playing for the song with Carnival Nine. Neil Peart played for the song with La Villa Strangiato. So playing for
Yeah.
the song, that to me, and I know a lot of other drummers that feel the same way. I actually heard this statement from Brian Tichy for the first time, who's played with Dead Daisies, Foreigner, Whitesnake, does the Bonzo Bash events. And playing for the song for a lot of people means just lay back,
Yeah.
just lay back. You belong in the background. That's playing for the song. No, playing for the song means playing for the song, and not all songs
Yeah.
require the drummer to just completely lay back.
Yeah.
So,
Like, who's the drummer for Coldplay? Whatever he plays in Clocks, the song Clocks,
yeah,
just complements the song so perfectly. And it's
yeah,
not like showing off or anything, it's just the perfect groove. It's
right.
exactly what he should be playing for that song.
That's a great example and a great way to put it, the way he complements it. Stuart Copeland, I think, is a perfect example as well with the Police. Stuart has flash, but he also has brevity. He
Hmm.
knows when to lay back, but
Yeah.
when it's his moment to shine, whether it's a long passage in a song or just a little fill, he's got that.
Yeah.
To me, that's playing for the song, whatever that is for that song. It
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily just mean boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
which would be okay if that's playing for that song, right?
Yeah.
Are you ever going to, and if you've done this already, I'm sorry I don't know, but are you ever going to put out an album of what you do, playing both drum set and marching snare to music that you create, or some other cinematic type music like that one video showed?
Yeah, it's definitely on my, and I have a cork board right here of my like goals for 2024. Definitely. I mean, I've put out a couple of orchestral pieces already for separate projects, but I have like an idea for like just a mini album of, I mean, I play all these instruments. I want to do something that that would reflect my style. And part of me is like, would people really listen to like an album of just like
Sure.
pianos and guitars and drums? And yeah, I think they would. If
Of course,
it
absolutely.
the melody is what matters. But yes, it's definitely something I want to do as long as I have a chunk of time to be able to do it.
Great. Are you familiar with who Trevor Rabin is?
Oh, sounds super familiar.
So Trevor was in the 1980s and into the 90s. Yes, he first joined them for the album 90125, which has the hit "Owner of a Lonely Heart."
Okay.
He's a guitar player, but he's also a multi-instrumentalist. Plays just about everything, produces, and he put out a solo album last year. Steve will correct me if I'm off. Um, last year called Rio, and it's his second solo album. His first solo album was in 1989, and it has singing and everything. He's playing
Yeah.
drums. On this album, he's playing mostly instruments. I think his son played instruments on a couple songs. He would be a good. That would be a good album for you to listen to regarding this venture, simply
Yeah.
for validation. But Trevor's also one of the most sought after movie soundtrack scorers who also records the music and everything. And he lives not far from you,
Cool.
actually. I think he lives
He
still in,
what?
he doesn't live far from you, actually.
Oh,
I think he's
okay.
still in Hollywood Hills. Um, uh, oh, so Steve says, oh, that's right. He had a few solo albums before Yes. I was thinking of since Yes. But yeah, and the
Okay.
Coldplay drummer Stephen is Will Champion. That's right, Will.
Okay.
Um, and he says, and Jacaranda between Can't Look Away and Rio. Steve's like a lexicon of music, especially if it's Yes related whatsoever, which is why we do that other show. And
Awesome.
Steve, maybe you could send Amanda our one of our interviews with Trevor, maybe the one our review of Rio as well. But that's like I see you in that model where you're doing movie score stuff, you're doing other soundtrack stuff, you're a multi instrumentalist. It's
Hmm.
and Trevor is one of many artists that proves that yeah, people will listen to all instrumental albums that are pop
Yeah.
related, or they don't have to be necessarily crazy fusion or esoteric or avant-garde. They can be
Yeah.
basically somewhat pop music but without vocals.
Yeah. There you
Do you
go.
sing?
Thank you for that validation.
Yeah. But do you also sing, Amanda?
Oh, I mean, in the shower. No, I don't professionally. I'd say like note wise, yeah, I can hit a note, but in terms of the tone of my voice, no, I've
Yeah.
never been like one to rock the vocals, but yeah.
All right. So let's run down your other instruments. I know you play
Okay.
guitar. Who's a couple guitarists that?
I got my guitars back
Oh,
here. I
there they
got
are. Yeah,
my
I think I see a
acoustic
classical
guitar
and an
and
electric.
my bass guitar in the center, and then my Fender Squire electric guitar.
Oh.
So,
Who are your guitar influences or
oh,
people you admire?
again, I have to say like the Beatles, and it's like mostly just because I just grew up listening to them, and
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
that's
George
not a bad influence.
Harrison. Yeah, I mean that. Those were the first songs that I ever learned on guitar. Was like
Oh,
Beatles
cool.
stuff. I've Just Seen a Face was the first song I ever learned, and it's nothing like fancy, but it's great melodies, and
Exactly.
it's got the basic chords there. But yeah, Beatles, and yeah, I would say mainly them.
Cool. What do you have planned for the near future? Are you working on anything?
Well, I just wrapped up scoring a film. Now I do project management work for a studio here in LA that does lots of game soundtracks. They
Oh,
did League of Legends as well. So I'm kind of like doing that as well as my own freelance film composing. So just wrapped up a session last week. Now I'm literally like back on the grind.
that's
um,
great.
I've got I compose for concert music as well, so I have a piece of mine being played by the U.S. Army Band at West Point for their Labor Day concert in
Wow.
September. So I'm super excited about that.
Are you going to get a recording or a video of that performance?
Absolutely,
Great.
yeah.
Are you going to go there?
And I am, yeah. I'm gonna fly in
Great.
there and check it out, and they do a live stream as well of the concert. But yeah, got that coming up. What else?
That's exciting.
We'll see. I mean, things come up. I want to do a marching band project too, but I'm not gonna say much about that yet.
Hey,
Yeah,
when you
lots
can,
of
let me know and we'll do this again.
yes, we'll do.
Cool. You're always welcome to come on and promote anything that you're doing. And for my final question, this is the Amanda Muse Fun Fact segment. And what
Okay.
this is when you are not doing project management at the studio, when you're not composing, when you're not recording, when you're not making videos, what do you do completely outside of music? Give us a little peek behind the curtain here. Like, what do you like to do when you're not
Um,
doing music, other than watching Drum Talk TV videos, of course?
yeah. Okay, this is like really random and niche, but I'm like a huge coffee nerd, like
Oh, wow.
specialty coffee,
Cool.
manually brewing coffee. And like it's kind of a hobby. It's weird. It kind of turned into a hobby for me. So I like go, you know, they sometimes have coffee tastings in LA. I love to go to
Nice.
those. And I love to like, I love to hike. A lot of people in LA love to hike.
Yeah.
Just get out in the nature when you
Yeah.
can. But yeah, I'm usually in my studio, like just playing on piano. It's usually music related. And when it's not, it's coffee or,
A good
watching a
hike.
movie with my
Yeah.
cat and sister.
That's cool. Where do you like to hike? When I grew up out there, I um, used to go to Malibu State Park a
Oh,
lot.
it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yep,
I
there and also I can't remember. I can't
Runyon. I
remember.
love Runyon. Runyon Canyon.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's probably my favorite.
Have you ever heard of Castle Peak?
Oh, I've heard of it. I haven't
Castle
done
Peak
it.
is, do you know where West Hills is?
Yes.
It's right behind West Hills at the entrance to Bell Canyon. I lived right there, and I used to
Okay.
be long before those houses were built right there. Used
Yeah.
to ride bikes and then motorcycles and horses and then hike up Castle Peak.
Cool.
Yeah, so that
Awesome.
was fun. Yeah, and now I
There's
live in the
also
mountains.
the Getty, the one by the,
Oh
yeah, by the
yeah,
Getty, right? Yeah,
yeah,
which kind of takes you close to the Hollywood sign.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Well, Amanda, thank you for taking time to join us. Love what you do. You're a huge inspiration. It's nice to
Thank
have
you.
another woman who's dove into the world of drumming fearlessly. You're so good. It's like I watch videos. And I'm like, okay, I need to practice. You know,
Oh,
I'm
thank
good
you.
at what I do, but it's very, very narrow.
Thank you.
I
I
missed out on
appreciate
the
it.
whole drum corps thing because at the time it was. It was too I'll just say it was too rigid for me. It was too
Mm,
disciplined, and
yeah.
the director at the high school I went to was an older Austrian gentleman, and I never saw him smile or laugh, and
Oh
it
my
wasn't
gosh.
fun. Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't. Might have
Yeah.
been a cultural thing. I don't know, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And so after like 5 weeks, I told my parents, "I think I want to go back to PE and not do marching band." My mom's like,
Mm.
"What? Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's just not fun."
Yeah.
So I didn't learn those chops, and I totally admire that you have those chops and you've been able to spread them amongst your drum set playing and with the movie soundtrack stuff. It's just fascinatingly
Thank
good.
you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in with Amanda Muse and myself, Dan Chin on Drum Talk TV. If you're watching on the archive, still go ahead, comment, be part of the conversation, share this with someone who you think may enjoy it, especially a young female drummer who could use some inspiration that anyone can become whoever they want to become. Amanda, you've been a great example for that. And folks, you can follow us at drumtalktv.com and check out our new membership site at drumtalktvbrilliant.com. And folks, we will see you soon. Thanks, Amanda. Hang on the line with me, Kate.
Okay. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.